So this is a technical dive we did on the Spiegel Grove in Key Largo, Florida. Our goal is to penetrate starting in the stern part of the starboard gunnel and head forward towards the captain's bar and then out through the windlass room and exiting in the bow. Hunter and I are diving open circuit, so we have double LP85s and an aluminum 80 stage, all with 28%, and we have 40 cubic feet of 80% oxygen for deco. So we're making our way down the anchor line now. The boat is tied into the port crane at about 70 feet. Once we get down to the bottom, I like to just take a minute to get settled. You can see Trent's long hose came out from under the bungees it was tucked under. I'm going to take a second and just tuck that back under. You don't want anything to get caught up inside the wreck. We're going to swim underneath the helipad along the starboard gunnel of the ship towards the cutout where we're going to start our penetration. Steph is confirming that everybody's ready to start the penetration, so make sure you're neutrally buoyant, turn your lights on, and check that everything's as streamlined as it can be before you go into the wreck. Here we go. Hunter's making his way in. I'm next. There is some silt on the floor inside, so as we go in, we just want to make sure that we try to stay in the upper half of the passage to kick up as little silt as possible. So we're going to start swimming forward towards the bow of the ship. There's about a dozen of these hatches between where we're going into the wreck and the captain's bar. We went back and forth about whether to bring an aluminum 80 stage just to make sure we had plenty of gas. And here's where I'm going to start to wish we hadn't. It's a little bit tricky getting through these hatches with doubles on your back, and then you got the aluminum 80 stage and the aluminum 40 of 80% oxygen. So it would have been a little bit easier without the stage. And in the end, we had plenty of gas, so definitely didn't need the stage. This room was big enough for me to turn around in, so I took the chance to look back and see how Trent was doing. Inside a wreck, 100 feet underwater, there's nowhere he'd rather be, so he's good to go. I was having a little bit of trouble squeezing through the hatches, so I unclipped my stage and started pushing it in front of me to try to make it a little bit easier. And it did help a little bit. I'm particularly interested in this vertical hatch because I believe it's the one that goes down to the engine room. That wasn't part of our plan this dive, but based on the amount of gas we had, we definitely could spend 5 or 10 minutes in the engine room the next time we come on this dive. You can see the door on this next hatch is partially blocking the top part of it. I gritted my teeth a little bit when I saw this because it's definitely the narrowest one yet. I decided to try to go as low as I could on this one to get to the widest part of the hatch, even though I knew that I would kick up a little bit more silt. I thought that was the best option. And you can tell by the huge silt cloud that Hunter made the same choice. I did get wedged in there a little bit, but I was able to shimmy forward and backward until I was able to slide through. The average depth of this hallway is about 105 feet, so a little shallower than I expected. So here we finally made it to the captain's bar. It took us about 12 minutes to swim the length of the passage to get here. And I really appreciate Steph waiting outside. She's already been here a number of times, so she wanted to make sure we got in and got to see it in case the room got silted up once everyone got in there. People call this room the captain's bar, probably because of the shape of the table and the bar stools, but I don't think it was ever used as a bar. I think it was more of a communications center. I knew all 4 of us were going to be swimming around in this room for a couple minutes, so my first thought when I got in here was, I just want to find a place in the corner up near the ceiling and just be as still as possible to try to preserve the visibility. This isn't a particularly accessible part of the ship, so it's a bit of a tradition that people that make it down here leave a little memento to show they were here. Some of the other items that we found are this Nikon camera, got a Sasquatch statue, and probably the most iconic item is the 12-inch marital aid. Here we flipped over to the Steph cam. That's me swimming up in the white helmet. Trent's memento is a Snoop Dogg bobblehead. The Spiegel Grove's mascot is Snoopy from Peanuts, so I guess you could say it's still a Snoop, but a little different. And of course we got Mr. Chili. Steph's given us a signal that our time's up in here and we need to keep moving. I was following behind her the whole dive, so this was the first time that I got close enough to notice her HUD on her chop demo was blinking red. I didn't film it, but I did ask her about it. She showed me the PO2s on her shearwater were all holding steady at 1.2, so it must have just been a malfunctioning HUD. She was comfortable that the rebreather was still working fine, so she didn't feel like she needed to bail out. Our plan was to continue swimming forward from the captain's bar and hop out near the bow. But as you can see, Steph is looking at the options and comes back and signals that both those ways are blocked, so we're going to have to do something else. So my thought process was, if we can't continue forward, then we're going to have to retrace our steps and come out the same way we came in. And I was not particularly excited about squeezing through all 12 of those hatches again. So here Hunter's just signaling, hey, I thought we were supposed to go forward after the captain's bar, and Steph's saying, no, we're going this way now instead. So now we're not following our original plan of going forward from the bar, and when we left the bar going aft, we aren't retracing our steps. We're heading down a new passage. So this did make me a little bit uncomfortable because it wasn't part of the plan, but I just reminded myself that, hey, we're only 25 minutes into this dive and we had a planned bottom time of 70 minutes, so we got tons of time to figure this out. And we hadn't really been silting the wreck up that much, so if we did need to, we could always just retrace our steps all the way to the stern. Luckily, Steph was right the whole time, and we were able to find an exit into the windlass room here and then out into open water. This windlass room contains all the machinery that would be used to raise and lower the anchors. You can see these huge pulleys would handle the anchor chain as they were retrieving the anchors. It's a really cool room with a lot of cool stuff in it, and it's directly accessible from the bow of the ship, so it's a really easy penetration. It's always a bit of a relief to see the blue glow of daylight and exit out into open water again. This penetration to the captain's bar and the windlass room was the primary objective of the dive. So now that we've accomplished that, we still have about 20 minutes of bottom time left. So we're just kind of regrouping and deciding what we want to see next. Here we're coming around the bow of the ship and we're going to start swimming aft up the port side back towards the superstructure and in towards the Snoopy tunnel. At this point, Hunter's a pro at getting 4 tanks through these hatches, so he just swam through there like a salmon swimming upstream. So we're about 40 minutes into the dive now, and I'm just finishing my aluminum 80 stage, so I want to take this chance to switch onto my back gas and get the stage stowed out in open water, before heading in on the next penetration. It's just easier to do it, outside the wreck. Trent found this set of rollers. We're not really sure what they're used for. Could have been for cafeteria trays as part of the mess, or maybe part of the machine shop. And then we got this desk that just shows it ain't the Navy if there isn't any paperwork, right? Here we got the Top Dog Snoopy logo, which kind of took me by surprise because I'd never gotten here this way before. I wasn't even really sure we were in that part of the ship. It's tradition that the sailors would never step on the logo of the ship out of respect. They had to step around it when they walked through the hallway, but we're swimming, so it's not going to be a problem for us. Here we are exiting the stern side of the superstructure. That pretty much wraps it up. We're making our way back towards the anchor line on the port side crane and looking at about 25 minutes of TTS. What a great dive. The primary objective of doing the penetration to the captain's bar was really cool. And we identified the hatch that goes down to the engine room, so that'll set us up for success on the next one. Big thanks to Steph for showing us around. We wouldn't have been able to do it without her. I think if we're going to do the dive over again, would not bring the Illuminati stage. We had tons of gas, and it would have been easier to squeeze through those hatches without the stage. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.